Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Nice turnout. I did bring some copies of some documents for folks to grab if they want. I was expecting a smaller turnout. I was expecting a turnout, but not one quite this big, so I did not make enough copies to go around for everybody, and I apologize for that. One of the documents just sort of simply describes what tonight's all about, and I'm going to go over that orally anyway. The other one is a document called the Citizens Guide for Participation in Public Service Board Section 248 proceedings, and that's Section 248 is the statute that the petitioner has filed its request for permission to construct and operate this project. If there are not enough for everybody here who is interested in possibly participating formally as a party, that's what the document explains how to do. Those are available on our website. It's posted up there. It's pretty easy to find. So, anyway, this is a Public Service Board public hearing involving a request by Sudbury Solar LLC for a certificate of public good pursuant to 30 VSA Section 248, authorizing the installation and operation of a 2-megawatt solar electric generation facility to be located off of Vermont Route 30 in Sudbury, Vermont. My name is John Cotter. I'm a staff attorney at the Public Service Board, and I have been appointed by the board to serve as the hearing officer in this docket. And I was actually asked earlier today if, at this point, I would sort of explain my role. The Public Service Board is a 3-person panel that renders decisions in public utility matters. And there are a variety of staff people there, some of which are attorneys like myself, others are environmental experts or utility policy experts. But we all also serve as hearing officers. In this case, like many of the cases, the board does not hear directly. If the 3-person board tried to hear every case that came before it directly, nothing would ever get done. There's just too many cases. So what happens is the majority of cases get assigned to hearing officers, and we take care of all of the evidence. Basically, we kind of sit up behind something elevated like this, and we do the evidentiary hearings. We issue rulings on any procedural requests or motions that get us through the evidentiary stage. And then eventually, when we get through that, the people that are parties will file briefs and reply briefs stating their positions and what they think the outcome should be based on the evidence that was developed. And then I will issue what's called a proposal for decision. And that will go out to all of the parties, and the parties will have an opportunity to file written comments with the Public Service Board, as well as to request oral argument in front of the 3-person board on the proposal for decision. And at that point, the board gathers all that information together, reviews the record that was developed, and the board actually is the entity that issues the final order in the case. And that order is appealable directly to the Vermont Supreme Court if somebody who was a party in the case wishes to appeal it. So that's the basic process. Tonight is what we call a public hearing. And the purpose of tonight's hearing is to provide an opportunity for everybody here to speak. And we have a court reporter who's going to be reporting everything. And so the Public Service Board can get input from members of the public regarding the request by Sudbury Solar to construct and operate this facility. This isn't the only opportunity you'll have to provide input. If you wish to provide more detailed comments, or if you don't want to speak tonight, some people aren't always comfortable speaking in public, but do want to provide written comments at a later date, we encourage you to send in written comments to the board. You can do that either electronically, by email attachment, or you can send it by snail mail. If you do, please include the docket number. That's the identifying number for this case. It's docket number 8225. The board's contact information is included on the handout, one of the 2 handouts here tonight. It has the email address and mailing address. As I said, tonight's hearing will be transcribed by a court reporter. The transcript, along with all other comments received by the board, become part of the case's public file so that board members, staff, and participants in the case can consider these comments as we move forward with the case. The one thing to keep in mind is the comments that are made here tonight, as well as comments that are just filed as written comments by non-parties, are not part of the evidentiary record. So the board cannot rely on them in making its findings in this case. But they're still important because, you know, I don't live in your community, and as far as I know, none of the public service board members do. And so we go out and we have these public hearings so that there's an opportunity for us to maybe learn something that we wouldn't have thought of, that then we can pursue in the course of the hearings and get some more information on in the evidentiary record. Just to let you know, Sudbury Solar has a representative here tonight. Back there, he's raising his hand. That's Brad Wilson. Tonight is your night. It's not their night, but he is here, and he has let me know that when we're done with the public hearing, he's willing to stick around, and if anybody has any specific questions or that they would like answered, he'll answer them to the best of his ability. If you want to just express some concerns to him, I'm sure he'd be willing to listen to those too. We also have here tonight, this is Jeannie Elias. She is an attorney at the Department of Public Service. So the Department of Public Service appears in cases before the Public Service Board. So we have a sign-up sheet that was going around earlier. This is if you want to speak tonight. I need you to sign up on here so I can make a little roll call and move through everybody, and we'll call you up to speak. And you know, tonight's pretty informal. It's not a huge room, so if you just want to stand or even remain seated where you are, there's no need to come up and stand up in front of everybody unless you want to, which is perfectly fine. When you do start to speak, if you could please state and spell your name clearly for the benefit of the court reporter, that would be really great. Does anybody want to sign up who has not yet signed up? Sure.
Well, you know, I'm going to sign up, and then if it's been answered, I'll just relinquish my time. Just maybe I'll pass it around.
I'll apologize in advance for butchering the pronunciation of his name. I've seen one already that we have challenged that. This is not a
Rather than make the trip back, I could take the dog with me. I'll leave with you. I don't know what to do.
We don't have a PA or anything here tonight. We've all got to be respectful of the person that's speaking, so everybody can hear what they have to say. The first person to speak tonight is Colleen Wright.
My name is Colleen Wright, C-O-L-L-E-E-N-W-R-I-G-H-T. I hate to see the loss of agricultural land in the town of Sudbury. Once it's gone, you can't make any more. And it's a dramatic loss. These are fields that have been used recently up to last season, I believe. And I hate to see the tone of the town change that dramatically. I also wish that there were people here who can answer questions because, as we all know, Sudbury is a very hunting culture. Many, many people hunt. They hunt with shotguns and rifles and arrows. And I want to know who's responsible for damages. We just had some cows that got shot over in West Haven. There's nothing really to prevent these solar panels from getting shot. And I don't want the town to be responsible if an errant bullet or more would hit these solar panels. Who pays for them? Is it the town of Sudbury? Is it the state of Vermont? Is it Green Mountain Power? Is it the people who own the solar panels? And I think that can be, a significant expense. So I was wondering about that. But that's basically what I had to say, just about the hunting and the errant bullets and the loss of agricultural land.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Roland DeForge.
My name is Roland DeForge, ROLANDEESFORGEL. I built my house in 1962, and it's set just south of where those panels are going. When I built my house, my view is to the north. And now I'm going to be looking right into those panels. And I just don't really see a sense having to put them near the road or around houses. I think there's got to be land where they can be put where they aren't going to affect the homeowners or the people driving up and down the road. I've been to Burlington, seen those up in New Haven. I don't think they're too attractive. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this is the name I
No,
promised.
it's okay. I'm going to speak.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I spared you.
You're going to tell me how to pronounce it, though, right?
Sure. Genevieve Zajac.
I had Jean as the first name, and then the V-I-U-V-E Zajac is the last name. All right, that makes much more sense. I'm relieved. Next is Patrick DeForge.
Patrick DeForges, DESFORGES. I also am up, own property up near it, at the apartment on the corner. I'm just, wondering, if we're going to overlook that. But the property value, by putting that in, our property value is going to be decreased a lot. If we could decide to turn around and sell it, nobody's going to want to come in here and be parked next to that. So that's my major concern.
Okay. Fred Merker, if I'm reading it correctly.
Yeah. Fred, M-E-R-K-E-R-T. I just had a couple questions considering how far north we are, and I don't know whether this is a question thing or not, but I had a 600-watt solar panel on my property for 10 years, and for 6 months of the year, I almost couldn't get it to register that it was collecting anything because the days are so short in the wintertime. And I wondered if there's any federal kickbacks or state kickbacks to the investors here. Is that taken into consideration, that it's only good for 6 months of the year, or has the technology changed enough that it's, the days are so short you can't get more than a couple hours in the winter of strong sunshine. And I just wondered if the federal money or state money that's kicked back to the investors is based on the amount of money they invest or the amount of power that comes out of the project.
That may be something that Mr. Wilson could chat with you about afterwards. I'm sure he's probably done some studies into the expected productivity of the panels throughout the course of the year.
Great, thank you.
Next is Oliver Ketchum.
Oliver Ketchum, K-E-T-C-H-A-M. One concern I have is that it seems like the state is rushing in for putting in these solar panels, and they're kind of ugly, and I pour solar power, but rushing into putting them in, maybe 10 years from now, technology might make it so that you might only need a small tube on your house to bring in all the power you need, and we're kind of going full speed ahead on this. That's one of my concerns.
If you have more, we certainly have time for that. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, Steve, I'm going to try your last name.
That's all right. I'm going to submit written comment.
Okay. I think the next one is Larry Rowe.
Yeah, Larry and R-O-W-E. Town of Sudbury established zoning regulations as a means to plan for orderly growth and to minimize impacts of development on abutting neighbors and town services. While there is no commercial district specified in the regulations, the Zoning Board of Adjustment considers applications to establish businesses in town subject to a conditional use permit. And the record shows that the Zoning Board of Adjustment is very pro-business when it comes to granting these permits. Unfortunately, when developers apply for certificates of public good, such as Sudbury Solar, local land use regulations are superseded by the state regs, and the host towns are relegated to a subservient and secondary role, more of an observer status. In the case before us today, Sudbury Solar selected a very favorable site for their project, but its location is a highly visible parcel of land abutting Route 30 and directly facing 3 residences. When the developer was asked to minimize the visual impact of this very large solar array, the response was, and I'm paraphrasing here, "There's no hiding it. It's too big to screen. It is what it is." In effect, Sudbury was told, "Too bad, you'll have to live with it." And living with it may last up to 40 years or more. Of course, a remedy would be to relocate the project to a more remote site. There's plenty of open land in Sudbury. Compounding the issues surrounding the site for the project is the absence of any economic benefit to the town for this development. The developer told the Sudbury Planning Commission that the build-out of the solar panels and the associated equipment was exempt from local taxes. So now Sudbury is faced with a major project, a 15-acre footprint that dwarfs anything else in our town. There's no way to obscure it from the view by neighbors or travelers. It provides no revenue to the town and precludes any other type of development that could have provided revenue. For example, if a residence were constructed on that site and solar panels were erected for personal use on the building, all of the build-out would be subject to local taxes. I see this whole process and project as a quadruple whammy against Sudbury. The developer and the state of Vermont come out winners, but in my opinion, Sudbury loses. While I'm a supporter of solar power in principle, I feel Sudbury is being used and abused in this whole process. It happens that Route 30 corridor is favorable for solar electric projects who tap into the electric transmission grid, so developers target the town, and that's understandable. However, when the town has little or no say in how this project is evaluated and would receive no remuneration for hosting it, the process can only be seen as flawed and unjust. After all, host towns for hydroelectric sites and nuclear electric sites benefit from local taxes on those installations. Why not host towns for solar arrays? I respectfully request the Public Service Board to deny this project for the proposed site. However, if it rules otherwise, then due consideration must be given to the abutting landowners, the traveling public, and the economic benefit of Sudbury as detailed in the letter to the board from the Sudbury Planning Commission dated February 13th of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, I can see you obviously went to some significant effort to type your thoughts out. Do you want the board to have that in hard copy?
If it would be helpful, sure.
Sure, that's absolutely fine. Okay.
That's what I say. Oh, there we go.
Are you going to give us the website that we submit written things to?
Yes. I'll grab one of the cheat sheets down here to tell you what it is. So
Very good, thank you. At any time, that would be great.
Okay. Next up is David Cobb.
David Cobb, COBB. First of all, I want to state that where I live, I won't see this site, so I speak at it from that point of view. But I will be driving Route 30, as we all do. My point sort of echoes what Larry Rowe just said. And I have a philosophical point of view on this, I think. And part of it is that I see the developing process as one that completely lacks transparency. And I would suspect that the people of Sudbury, if it was put to a vote for renewable energy, there would be a positive vote. They would approve and support renewable energy. But when they look at the process that is happening across the state of Vermont, not just Sudbury, it's easy for us to think our little town might be being picked on, but I think the way the process is moving, and there is dissension amongst other towns, the process, if that were put to a vote, it would be a resounding no. And I would prefer, and obviously this is a legislative issue, more and deeper than the Public Service Board, but it seems as though if the state is going to impose this will, that they should work with the towns instead of above and beyond the towns. And if they did that, I think that the towns could suggest and actually produce a map of their town where these facilities would be most appropriate. And then work with that developer to mitigate that process and to make it a sustainable methodology instead of one where the developer really has all the cards. And that seems to be what's wrong with this particular process. And I think that this particular project for our town, a rural town, is the wrong one. One of the things when we look at what is important to Vermonters is its rural landscape. That is one of the #1 priorities for the state people. Maybe not the state government, but the state's people. And the reason people move here, stay here, is because of that landscape. We need to respect that landscape, and we need to prioritize it. Thank you.
There's something that Mr. Cobb said that I just would like to emphasize, actually. He pointed out that this process, the Public Service Board process, is statutorily driven. It's what the legislature has set up, and so we have to play the role that we play, which is basically to act like a court, and the department plays the role that the department plays, which is, I guess, I said to somebody earlier, if you imagine Law and Order, they would be the cops and prosecutors on Law and Order. So, you can't call the Public Service Board directly because we're like the court and start talking about a case that's pending. You have to participate formally in order to do that, or file public comments. That's fine. But you can interact with the Department of Public Service. The Agency of Natural Resources is also a party to this proceeding, and you can interact with the Agency of Natural Resources. There's no prohibited communication problem there. But we do have what we have in place as a result of legislation that is passed. But thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. Next is Karen Summerlad.
Hi, Karen Summerlad, KarenSommerled. I just have a couple of comments, many of which echo Mr. Rowe's statement earlier, so I won't go into that. But I'm particularly concerned about the lack of revenue that the town will not get from this project. I'm concerned about the visual impact on this landscape. I think that this is absolutely not the location for a large solar array project. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of property in a very rural setting, and this is just not the right place for this. I'm completely supportive of solar, but not here. And then I would also like to be sure that the board understands that this is really an important bobolink habitat. When we were out there this afternoon, we were standing on the property, there were bobolinks everywhere looking for places to nest. And I can't see that this is going to be very a compatible nesting site for them with the solar arrays, and they're needing to keep it mowed, and it's not going to be open anymore and provide the type of habitat that this important species needs. So I just wanted to leave those comments.
Nancy Rowe.
My name is Nancy Rowe, R-O-W-E. If you'd like my hard copy, you can have it. I guess my concern is that solar technology in 2014 might be totally obsolete in 2024. And in fact, will this array, when it does become obsolete, will it be dismantled so that the land can go back to the state it's found in right now and then be sold again or, put on the local tax rolls, or someone wants to, in fact, buy that property, build a house or whatever. And actually, I ask this not as just, the solar array is in my backyard, but this, I would hope, would be something that the whole state of Vermont is looking at in all these, solar arrays. I am 100% for solar, but I think the whole process needs to include the dismantling when in fact technology is different than what it's going to be today. Thank you.
Hope I get this one right. Bob Milazzo?
Yeah, pretty good. M-I-L-A-Z-Z-O. I think Larry covered most of it, but at some of the meetings that I was at, we brought up the fact that the company, that maybe they could probably put some evergreen trees in surrounding it so it would hide the view from the roadway. And they said that, well, that wouldn't be any good because the trees would, shade the solar panels. And so we brought up the fact that maybe you could move them back a little bit. It wouldn't be a big problem. And you still have your solar, and then poor people that live there and have to look at this on a daily basis would have some comfort in seeing some trees instead of some pieces of metal shining in their faces. And the second reason they're putting it near the roadways is the high tension lines are running up there, and it's cheaper for them to put it there. So they're not looking to go any further out anywhere else because it's not cost effective. And another point is that the power that's being generated from these solar panels is not going to Vermont. I don't know exactly where it's going, but it's not. So we're not getting anything out of that either. And I just think it's just totally horrible that people come in here and put an $8 million project. I mean, if I had an $8 million house, I'd be paying taxes to redeem that. And, it's just, it's not the right thing to do. So, basically, that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Ted Russell.
Russell, R-U-S-S-E-L-L. There's a little bit of research that we did. I think that is wrong about not being subject to property tax if we choose to tax that equipment. I know this isn't a question and answer thing, but isn't that the case, that it can be taxed? Are you willing to speak on that?
I personally haven't done the legal research on that, but I had not heard of an exemption for it.
We were told that there's no exemption for it, and we also were told by someone today who was involved in doing the one in Charlotte that the one when you go down the hill into Virgins, that project cost $2 million to build, and with Virgins, or I think it's actually Ferrisburg's tax rate, that the taxes on that one are $35,000 a year. And so what we've been able to find, we can tax that just as you were saying, the same as an $8 million house, you can tax it as an $8 million project. That's what we've been told.
You've been told that you can tax it?
Yes, absolutely. The one going down into Virgins, they're paying $35,000 a year in taxes on that installation.
I think the folks that are concerned about the tax issue may want to touch base with Mr. Wilson after we're done here this evening, because there's some pre-filed testimony. It's not part of the evidentiary record yet, but there's some pre-filed testimony on that issue that I think might do a little bit to alleviate some of that concern. Next up, I can't quite read the last name, Mike.
We tried.
Okay. Starts with a P or a D.
Us Italians know.
Yeah, my name is Mike Petralia, P-E-T-R-A-L-I-A. I thought I had a lot to say earlier, except that everybody prior to me really voiced all the same concerns I had. I can't add anything to that, though I'm really anxious to hear the pros from the company that's going to put the solar panels in. I've got nothing against solar, but the issues about the taxes or the non-taxes or whatever, that's my big concern. My real concern is what's in it for Sudbury. They put this thing in, 15 acres or whatever it is. We know what they look like. They're not horrible, but it's the 21st century. What's in it for Sudbury? Every other concern's already been voiced by Larry and Nancy Rowe and Bobby Malazzo and everybody else. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Rob and Chris Naylor.
I'm Rob Naylor, Naylor, and my concern was I'm just hoping that you could speak to the rumors about what's been talked about tonight, the fact that this falls under no jurisdiction for any permitting, town permitting or state permitting, and the fact that it's exempt from taxes. So I was curious if you or somebody could speak on that, please.
Well, I can tell you, generally, projects that are filed under Section 248 that are subject to the Public Service Board's jurisdiction are statutorily exempt from municipal zoning ordinances and statutorily exempt from the Act 250 review process. The legislature at some point made a determination that that it was a statewide interest that needed to be considered. Projects like this needed to be viewed from a statewide level. The towns obviously can submit comments that the board considers and can intervene as a party and file testimony, present witnesses, and so forth. So there are a couple of ways for the town's voice to be heard as a town entity. But no, the local zoning ordinances do not apply to these types of projects. And as to the tax question, if you want to just touch base with Mr. Wilson, I think he can put your mind at ease on that one.
Well, we're all curious about that. Could Mr. Wilson speak on that now?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, solar tax equipment is not property tax exempt in the state of Vermont.
I'm sorry?
Solar equipment is not property tax exempt in the state of Vermont. So property taxes would be paid on this equipment. I don't think we want to give me up there just yet. Afterwards, I'd be happy to. Just answer that question quickly.
I have to. Why don't stand up front and answer questions that they go to the audience?
This is what we don't want.
Folks, you can chat with Mr. Wilson afterwards, okay? You just need to move through the speakers this evening, and
Wait till the speakers are finished.
As a point of order, his comment just now contradicts what he told the Planning Commission at an informal meeting we had with this company.
Right.
And that's why I made the comment.
Yes, sir. I understand that. I read the letter to the board from the Planning Commission, and subsequently I saw Mr. Wilson's testimony in which he corrected himself. Apparently,
This is the first we've heard of this.
Yeah, so, if the lines of communication maybe could have been open a little bit more on this issue. So,
Sure.
But at the board, we only see what people send to us. So, anyway, I appreciate everybody's cooperation. Arthur Keefe.
Art Keefe, K-E-F-E. As most of you folks know, I'm Board of Selectmen, Chairman of the Board, I see one other board member here, John. Not here to represent the board, but anything I have to say is more on a personal level, even though the board at some time, not in formal situations, has discussed this project, and we're totally in agreement with Larry and the Planning Commission's letter of February that Larry spoke of earlier. But I certainly do, in speaking for myself, sympathize with you folks who need to look out at these panels and have to pass them every day, because I don't agree with the whole situation as far as our landscape and our farmland goes. But I just want to know at some point during this whole process that I personally can learn something good that this town will get from this, what benefit is it to us and the town as myself as well. That's all I have to say.
Next is Joe Choma.
It's Choma, C-H-O-M-A. And I really had a lot of things to say in my mind, but most of them have all been explained so far. Ted's comment about the tax issue is a concern of us all. It's not just an issue that is common to just some people. And one other thing that was overlooked, to me, this is an industrial type of development that is not inconsistent at all with the town plan, nor is it worth condemning agricultural land, even if it was described as marginal by the company that's proposing the project. They also said that it was going to be a solar farm, and I find that kind of inconsistent. Being a solar installation and farm doesn't make much sense. They explained that they wanted to grow clover there to support the bee habitat, and that was going to be a farming operation. I would like to know what the management plan is for the farming operation, who's going to manage the clover, and what type of clover, and exactly what you plan on doing as a solar farm. I question that.
After tonight, after this meeting.
Well, that's why we're here, to ask these questions. That's what we're doing.
Right. Just to clarify, I don't know what the answer to that question is, so I can't answer it for you.
Right.
And
I understand
that topic likely would not be part of the board's consideration. It's possible it could be. I wouldn't rule it out, but as I said, Mr. Wilson is here, and if he's got that information for you, then I'm sure he can give it to you. I appreciate it. See, this is why we have these public hearings like this. That's not an issue that I would have thought of, so I appreciate that. Last on the sign-up sheet is Jeannie Albert.
Hi, it's JEANNIEALBERT. And I've heard a lot of frustration from people speaking, and I do want to join that frustration about the process. I feel I came here, I was really looking forward to getting some more information and being able to speak to that information. And the way this is set up, I did actually get online and I read some of the pretrial testimony. I tried to educate myself, but I'm not a lawyer. You have to wade through a lot of whereases and other things that don't always make sense. And I was coming to this meeting hoping to learn more of a factual nature. The tax issues, that's a matter of fact. Somebody qualified to know knows the answer to that question. And if we knew it, we wouldn't have to go back and forth to talk about it. And it's not really a question of somebody's idea. We should have those facts before we even come here to talk about it. We should have all the facts available to us as a town before we can even think about it. And generally, I liked what part of what David Cobb said about having a more collaborative process with the town. I think that in a better world, that's the kind of process we'd have. We'd be able to say we support solar energy, and we want to be involved in thinking about the best place to put it that's going to be good for everybody. But that's not the world we're living in now, and I want to support solar projects. I happen to think when I see them that they make me feel good. I see the large projects. I admit I'm not going to be seeing this one out of my window, and I want to be sensitive to those people who are. But I want it to be on record that when I drive by and see a large blanket of solar panels I'm thinking nobody died to produce that energy. And that's really important to me. So what do we get out of it? We get energy that's clean. We get energy that no one had to like go overseas and died so that we could have it. So I wish the process was better, and I would invite I'd like to know if there were other sites that might be better than this one, but that's not a reason to turn it down to me.
Okay, that's everybody that's signed up on the list, but it's only 20 of 8. So if there's somebody that didn't sign up and hasn't spoken who wants to speak, you just raise your hand and we'll just call on people one at a time. Yes, sir, the gentleman back there.
My name is Brian Kemp, K-E-M-P. I'm not personally a taxpayer, but I manage property of over 2,000 acres in Sudbury. I'm not sure if I can speak here. Tell me if I can or not.
Sure.
Okay. This is for you. We have solar on the farm. Works fine. It's tucked away out, not visible. We power water for 300 head amps, it's not solar. My only thing I want to say is for the Public Service Board to please listen to the people. I live in Cornwall, and as everybody in here knows, the big debate of the pipeline. Big business comes into a town, makes promises, they don't always follow. Things have been shuttled around in Cornwall, it's going here, it's going there. There's big money behind that project. And we feel in Cornwall, and I think people in this room feel, you get a little strong-armed by big business. And I think it's the Public Service Board to be sympathetic and really take that and think about that. Because people's lives, people's properties are affected in both these projects.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Will we be able to... Oh, I'm sorry. Margaret Villeneuve, Villeneuve. Will we be able to get a copy of the proceedings for tonight?
The court reporter is going to transcribe it, and I can't give it away because this is how the court reporters make their living. They sell the transcripts. You can, however, I know this is going to sound very inconvenient, but it's the way it has to work. You can come to the Public Service Board and review a copy there at no charge. Otherwise, you would need to purchase one from the court reporters.
Oh my God.
Otherwise, the court reporters don't eat.
You just said, I'm sorry, Penny Brand, B-R-A-N-T. You just said they can view. Could you make a copy of it?
That I would, there may be a copyright problem with that.
A copyright problem with the steno?
I'm not familiar with the law around that, to be honest with you. The best way to find out about copies of the transcript would be to talk to Ms. Sears when you're going to see her.
Do you have in these statements here a full background of the reasons why we're doing this, the whole thing? Because I've been away. I just came back, saw we were having this meeting, and I showed up.
What do you mean, all the reasons why we're doing this?
Who is this company that's coming in to do this? Where is? I just heard that it's not even going to Vermont. Where is it going?
No.
I mean, all these questions.
No, these documents sitting on the edge of the stage. One just basically describes the format for tonight's proceeding, and the other is a guide on how to participate as a formal party, or it also tells you how to just submit comments as a non-party. They don't have any background on the project or anything like that. Mr. Wilson, I'm sure, can provide you with answers to each of the questions that you just had. I mean, basically at this point, what I can tell you is the company filed a petition with the Public Service Board seeking what's called a Certificate of Public Good. It's basically a permit to construct and operate the 2-megawatt solar farm, which you've heard folks describe. It's up the road a couple of miles on the right-hand side in a field, and it would take up approximately 15 acres, the panels, and it will be selling its power under what's called the standard offer program, and there is a, what's called, the gentleman's position is called the speed facilitator. And the speed facilitator would buy the output from the project and then allocates it among Vermont utilities based upon their demand ratio. In other words, if utility 1 sells twice as much power as utility 2, utility 1 will be allocated twice as much of the power for this project as utility 2.
But it is Vermont.
It will get divvied up among Vermont utilities. So, somebody in the back. Yes, sir.
I just want to know, my name is Pat DeForge. I just want to know, I mean, we have a lot of wildlife down here. We have a lot of deer. We have, the Canadian geese comes down there. We have eagles. There's 3 eagles down there. There's, all kinds of wildlife. That was put in, we're going to lose that. Guaranteed.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the Agency of Natural Resources will be a party to this proceeding, and if you have specific concerns, you should feel free to contact their attorney. That's for the representing the agency in this case. Her name is Judith Dillon.
Because most of that is in the swamp, most of that land. It's a 74-acre park. 15 acres is up here, but the rest of it is wetland. And, I mean, we got a lot of wildlife that comes out. There's a lot of deer that come out there. I mean, not like it used to years ago, but, I mean, we still, it's nice to see them out there.
I would encourage you to get in touch with the Agency of Natural Resources attorney and let them know what your concerns are. And, they have people on their staff that will probably look into it. Yes, in the back?
Gail Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. I guess I'm concerned why Green Mountain College can get a rate off. I guess they're going to be the recipients of this electricity?
No.
Okay. But I guess I don't understand why, as a host town, we can't get a percentage off from our electric bills just for having it here. And also, it's my understanding because of these big solar developments that there's going to be a cap on the amount of the buyback that Green Mountain Power can do. So it can no longer buy back the extra electricity that a residential panel may produce.
What you're referring to is the net metering program. This particular project is not part of the net metering program.
So it won't affect residential solar
and
that buyback?
This project will have no impact on the net metering program. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Karen Summer-Lanigan. I have a question about the time frame for the proceedings.
Sure.
If people want to submit written comments or talk to people, what's the time frame? How is this going to play out?
Written comments can be submitted, what we refer to as public comments. They can be submitted at any time. If you want to speak to one of the state agencies that is appearing in the matter, I would say the sooner the better. Because if you've got something you want them thinking about, you probably want them thinking about it as early in the process as possible. Where we are right now for a schedule is people that wish to participate as parties have to file what's called a motion to intervene, and the deadline for doing that is 1 week from today.
Oh my God. That's not fair.
That particular deadline has been established for quite a while. It's been on the board's website. A motion to intervene is not a terribly complex or lengthy document. If you look at the Citizen's Guide to the 248 process, there's a description in there of what a motion to intervene is, and it refers you to Public Service Board rules that govern intervention. And the rules basically say, here's what you have to show in your motion. After that, any responses to the motions to intervene are due 1 week after that. And then the only other dates that have been scheduled so far, and it was by agreement of the parties, is June 30th would be the deadline for any stipulated settlement to be filed. And if a stipulated settlement is filed then the hearing on that settlement will be July 16th. If a stipulated settlement is not filed on June 30th, the parties will be filing proposed schedules. Yes, sir.
David Cobb again, COBB. Could you define stipulated settlement, please?
It's an agreement.
That's it.
Stipulation is an agreement, yeah.
Between the parties involved, i.e. the PSB and the developer, or all of the various interveners as well?
Yeah, the PSB is not a party. The Department of Public Service is a party.
Okay.
Yeah, the board sits like the court and would review any agreement and decide whether to approve it, reject it, or approve it, but subject to conditions, modifying it in some way, shape, or form. An agreement does not have to be between every party to a case. For example, say there were 5 parties in a case and 3 of them came to an agreement and they signed that agreement and they filed it, and the other parties are free to oppose the agreement, in which case we have a hearing on it and take it from there, take the evidence, and then the board will make its decision. Yes, sir, in the back?
Yeah, Bob Milazzo again. Just one comment I want to make that I didn't make before, it's basically to the townspeople. This project is one of 2 on Route 30. So be aware that there's another project that's coming right on Route 30. So I just want to make that comment. So everybody's here.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Another question, Chief. Those that you refer to as parties, are they just the folks whose property abuts this particular project, or to go beyond that?
No. Right now, the parties, and when I say party, what you're talking about is that means somebody that gets to testify, gets to cross-examine witnesses, can file a brief arguing for or against the project. And right now, the parties are the petitioner, Sudbury Solar, the Department of Public Service, the Agency of Natural Resources, and the Department of Public Service and the Agency of Natural Resources are statutorily, automatically made parties to these Section 248 proceedings. We have also received an intervention request from the Division for Historic Preservation, and that has been granted, so they are also a party. At this time, those are the only parties. Anybody else that wants to be a party does have to file a motion to intervene. Yes, sir.
Roland Forge. I'm the one that probably get affected the most. My house is my property borders that property. My house, the view from my house is looking north. Now, I would hope that everybody on the board could look at 15 acres of panels behind their house and think what it's going to look like. I'm not against solar, but I think there's got to be better places to put a solar farm that size, beside and back of somebody's house or along Route 30.
Yes, we had a site visit today, earlier today, sir, so I
saw you out there.
I have in mind there's the 2 houses to the south of the project, and I will certainly make the board aware of their location in reference to the proposed panels. Yes, sir, in the back.
The other property that faces that,
State your name again, please.
Patrick Discordius, the other property that states that, I have 7 on them, but we gave them that 16 acres to them, and they built a new house on it. He's going to be really affected if his house is right there. It's the one that's facing that project completely.
That's not true.
Now, he mentioned when he was at the meeting about putting some trees up or something like that, and they kind of said, no, it can't. You know, if I was him, I'd put a row, weeping willows up or some kind of, right on his property, blind everything. But the thing is, no, his property's not going to be worth absolutely nothing. Nobody's going to want to buy that property. Completely. He can't be here because he's not in good health.
Yes, sir.
Chuck Smith, SMID. I would hope in the future that the process would be one of planning forward as opposed to reacting, and that is, as the concept of an industrial park that areas are selected as more appropriate with the highway, in this case, the power line feed, to have the capacity and agreed designated areas so we can encourage solar power as opposed to having the poison ivy erupt in a location where we don't want it, where it may cause visual harm to the feeling of the community or to individuals that own property. So I would hope that longer term we could find planning designated zones where the least amount of detrimental outcome would be so we can encourage solar power.
Amen, bro.
And I wanted to see, this is right, you wanted to know what that email address was.
I also was wondering if you could get us the name of the woman who owns Sudbury Solar LLC so I can give her a call. I just, well, I heard that it was a woman. It may very well be a man. If it's a man, I just think it would be nice if we could actually talk to the person rather than have, or is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were a representative. I didn't know it was you we were all at.
Okay, folks. Just so everybody's aware, the Public Service Board's website is www. .psb. .vermont. .gov. G-O-V. And make sure I'm giving you the right email address.
Is Vermont spelled out, or is it just VT, sir?
It is spelled out.
Okay.
And the email address is psb at .vt.us. Folks want the mailing address also? Vermont Public Service Board, 112 State Street, Montpelier. (05620) -2701. It's important to
Could you
put the
repeat that,
extension.
please?
Pardon?
Could you repeat the zip code again?
Yes. 05620 -2701. And then also, as I mentioned, there's probably a dozen or so copies of, this describes the Section 248 process, the different ways to submit comments to the board, and how to become a party if somebody wants to become a party and participate formally. So put these on the end of the stage. Please feel free to help yourself if you want. And as I said, if there's not enough to go around, that document can be found on the board's website. There's a link that says, I think it's a board publications link. And you'll find that when you go to that, you'll find the link to the Citizens Guide to the 248 process. But please help yourself to what I did bring tonight. I'm sorry I didn't bring it up. Yes, in the back, I think you raised your hand.
Lori Bertrand. I just say Bertrand, B-E-R-T-R-A-N-D.
Thank you.
I just wonder how much weight you are going to give to our comments tonight, based on the whole proceeding.
The comments tonight, I explained this earlier, I don't know if you were here or not. The comments tonight are not part of the evidentiary record, and the board, when it makes its decision, it has to rely on the evidentiary record. So it can't make findings based upon comments that people made tonight. What the comments tonight do is puts ideas in my mind about, are there issues that we didn't think of that we need to pursue during the evidentiary process to make sure that we get information into the records that the board can rely on if it needs to. Yes?
Nan Jenks J, Jenks-Jay. So I'm a professional environmentalist, and I spend all of my life teaching and working towards the solutions that will bring us a better, safer, more sustainable world. But this particular project concerns me because of the scale in a rural community that has as one of its greatest assets soga land and its view sheds. And this is disruptive to both of those. It's not a community that hasn't taken this without consideration. These are things that the Planning Commission and the selectmen and the members of this community hold dear. So 2 entry points, it seems to me, if this makes sense, and I hope the documents that you're providing tonight, or the material providing tonight, will allow people to find entry points to have comments that will be considered, would be through the Department of Natural Resources and the Division of Historic Preservation. So the DeForge House on the corner is a historic home, and it's a historic home that's been surrounded by historic landscape. And that's part of that ambiance of this community. It's also that some people make their living bringing people to this town to retain that over time. And the other point then, I think, is the natural resource amenities and assets and attributes of that property, which we will document as fast as we can and get those to the Department of Natural Resources so that they know that there are state rare and threatened species on the property. And we can do that with professionals quickly, and we can do that with sightings of long-term, knowledgeable Vermont residents and Sudbury community members who know the land better than just about anyone. So those are just 2 areas that I can see entry points for comments that will have significance, that might have merit, as opposed to this evening's comments, which are just to help inform the board, and that you'll be bringing back. But the other point is just that scale matters in Vermont. It does, and I think the scale of this project is oversized, and it's one of 2, it's been mentioned, and that could destroy this particular community. That's something that I hope you'll take into consideration and take very seriously, because this is one project we're talking about tonight, but this is incremental. It's not the first, and won't be the last. Thank you.
Thank you. Just you said the Department of Natural Resources, just so you don't get lost looking for the Department of Natural Resources, it's the Agency of Natural Resources.
Thank you.
I think you probably just find it under Natural Resources, but just in case. Okay. I believe we're adjourned. I want to thank everybody for coming, thank everybody for thoughtful comments and for being supportive and polite. I appreciate it very much. Yes?
I have a question. I'm Linda.
I'm sorry.
I'm Linda Marchica, Marchica, and I came a little bit late, but in listening to all the comments and concerns, and I applaud everyone that came tonight to support the town. But my main question is, there's a lot of questions that have not been answered. If Mr. Wilson is here, I don't understand why he's not answering our questions. If we have taken the time to, just a second, if we have taken the time to come here to ask these questions, and someone is knowledgeable that is here that could help us, why not? I don't understand. I'm sorry.
Mr. Wilson, first of all, just to explain, the format of the board's public hearing is to hear from people in the community. And in the past, the board actually used to go ahead and let the developer of a proposed project make a presentation at the beginning. And sometimes that does not go over so well because depending upon the developer takes it as an opportunity to promote the project. And then that takes away from the time that people have to make their comments. So generally speaking, what we do is we keep to a format where people make comments. Now, Mr. Wilson, however, has agreed to stay after the board public hearing this evening to answer people's questions. So he can answer your questions, and I probably shouldn't be here for that because I have to, you know, everything that I deal with has to be through the evidentiary record, with the exception of things like the public hearing comments that you hear from the public, so that's okay. But if you folks start talking to him about the project, you know, I have to respond to what gets filed with the Public Service Board, not to conversations that people have.
I just think we're all interested and we have questions and we don't have answers.
Right, well, he's here and he's willing to answer questions.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're adjourned, and as I said, Mr. Wilson has agreed to make himself available to try and answer any questions that you have. I would encourage people who are thinking that they may be interested in participating as a party to go ahead and grab a copy of that document that's sitting on the stage and read through it. It can be a little tedious, I will admit, but there's a lot of valuable information in there for people who want to participate. Thank you very much.